The ship from Earth docked at Harmony 7 Station on a quiet morning. Ambassador Tolek stood near the arrival gate with his 4 eyes watching the door carefully. He was a Varani, tall and thin with skin that looked like living crystal. Light passed through his body and made soft rainbow patterns on the floor. Today was an important day. The first human exchange student was arriving at the station. Tolek had read many reports about humans. He had seen videos of their home planet. Earth was what the galaxy called a Deathworld. Everything that wanted to kill everything else. The animals were dangerous. The weather was dangerous. Even the plants could kill, and humans? They were the most dangerous of all. They had hunted every predator on their planet until nothing dared to challenge them. They could run for days without stopping. They healed from wounds that would kill other species. They formed bonds so strong they would die for each other without thinking. Tolek was nervous. The door opened with a soft hiss. He expected something terrifying. A tall warrior, perhaps. Someone with cold eyes and scars on their face. Someone who looked like death itself. Instead, a small girl walked through the door. She was barely 160 centimeters tall. Her hair was black and tied in 2 small ponytails with pink ribbons. She wore a simple white shirt and a blue skirt that looked like a school uniform. On her back was a pink bag, covered with cartoon stickers of small animals with big eyes. In her hand she held a translation device that was also covered in colorful stickers. She looked around the station with wide, excited eyes. Then she saw Tolek, and her face broke into the biggest smile he had ever seen. "Hello," she said loudly, waving her hand. Her voice was high and cheerful, like a small bird singing. "I am Yuna. Nice to meet you." Tolek blinked all 4 of his eyes, one after another. This was the human? This small, soft-looking child with the pink bag? This was the representative of the most terrifying species in the known galaxy? He bowed politely. "Welcome to Harmony 7, young human. I am Ambassador Tolek. We are honored to have you." Yuna giggled. The sound made several nearby aliens turn and stare. A group of Mallory traders, who looked like large, colorful slugs, pulled back in surprise at the sudden noise. Yuna noticed them and waved happily in their direction, too. "So many different friends," she said with excitement. "This is amazing. Do you have good food here? I am very hungry from the long trip. Oh, is there good light for photos? I promised my friends I would send many pictures." Tolek did not know what to say. He had prepared speeches about galactic politics and cultural understanding. He had not prepared for questions about food and photographs. A young Varani named Dohan stepped forward. He had been assigned as Yuna's guide during her stay. He was younger than Tolek, and his crystal skin was a lighter shade of blue. Right now, that skin was humming with nervous energy that Tolek could hear from several steps away. "I am Dohan," he said carefully, as if speaking to a dangerous animal. "I will be your guide. Please follow me. I will show you to your room." Yuna clapped her hands together. "Thank you, Dohan. Your skin is so pretty, like jewelry. Can I take a picture with you later?" Dohan looked at Tolek with something like panic in his eyes. Tolek simply nodded slowly and stepped back. This was Dohan's responsibility now. As they walked through the station, Yuna asked questions about everything. What was that plant? Why did the lights change color? What did that sign say? Could she try that food? Was that alien a boy or a girl? Did they have coffee here? Dohan answered each question shortly. He walked slightly ahead of her, and Tolek noticed that he kept looking back over his shoulder, watching her, waiting for something to happen. They passed through the main market area of the station. Hundreds of different species moved through the wide corridors. There were tall beings and short beings. Some had fur and some had scales. Some floated and some crawled. The air was filled with strange smells and stranger sounds. Yuna stopped in front of a food stall run by a churi merchant. The churi were insect-like beings with large eyes and long antennae. This one was selling small fried snacks that smelled sweet. "These look so cute," Yuna said. She looked at the merchant with pleading eyes. "Can I try one, please?" The churi merchant made a clicking sound that meant uncertainty. He had heard stories about humans too. Everyone had. But this girl did not look dangerous. She looked like a small child asking for candy. Her eyes were big and hopeful. Her hands were clasped together in front of her chest. The merchant clicked again, then held out a small snack. "Free sample. For the Earth visitor." Yuna's face lit up like a star-going supernova. She took the snack with both hands and bowed her head. "Thank you so much. You are so kind." She took a small bite and made a happy sound. "Delicious. Dohan, you must try this." Dohan shook his head quickly. "No, thank you. We should continue." As they walked away, Yuna turned back to wave at the churi merchant one more time. The merchant found himself waving back before he could think about it. Dohan watched all of this with confusion. This was not what he expected from a human. Where was the predator? Where was the killer instinct? This girl seemed completely harmless. More than harmless. She seemed soft, weak, easy prey. But something in the back of Dohan's mind would not let him relax. Some ancient instinct whispered to him that things were not as they seemed. He noticed small things. The way Yuna's eyes moved around the market, looking at every exit and entrance. The way she positioned herself so the walls were always close behind her. The way her feet moved quietly, almost silently. On the metal floor, these were not the habits of a simple student. When they finally reached Yuna's room, she threw her pink bag on the bed and spun around with her arms out. "This is wonderful. Thank you, Dohan." Dohan nodded and stepped toward the door. "Rest well. I will come for you tomorrow morning. Wait." Yuna pulled out her phone. "Can we take that picture now?" "For my friends?" Dohan hesitated. Then, slowly, he nodded. Yuna over and stood next to him. She held up her phone and smiled widely. Dohan tried to smile too, though Varani faces did not move the same way human faces did. The picture was taken. Yuna looked at it and laughed with joy. "Perfect. My first alien friend. This is the best day ever." As Dohan left the room, he could not shake the feeling that he was missing something important. The girl seemed so innocent, so harmless, but he had learned something important in his studies of Earth. On a Deathworld, nothing was ever as harmless as it seemed. 3 weeks passed on Harmony 7 Station. In that time, Yuna had become something strange and unexpected. She had become popular. The small human girl with the pink bag was now known in every corner of the station. The Mallory traders gave her free samples of their foods. The churi merchants saved the best items for her visits. Even Bora, the massive reptilian security chief who scared most beings just by walking past them, had started nodding at her in the hallways. Yuna attended cultural classes every day. She learned about different species, their histories, and their customs. She was not a perfect student. Her pronunciation of alien languages was often wrong. She made mistakes with gestures and sometimes offended people by accident. But she always apologized with such genuine sadness that no one could stay angry at her. She took hundreds of photographs. She sent messages to her friends on Earth every night. She collected small gifts from the merchants who had grown fond of her. Her room was slowly filling with strange alien objects that she thought were cute or interesting. To most beings on the station, she was a harmless curiosity, a small, friendly creature from a terrifying world. A reminder that maybe the stories about humans were exaggerated. But Dohan was not most beings. As her guide, He spent more time with Yuna than anyone else. He walked with her to classes. He ate meals with her. He answered her endless questions. And in all that time, he watched her carefully. He noticed things that others missed in crowded areas. Yuna's eyes never stopped moving. She tracked every being that passed near her. She watched doors and exits. She always knew where the nearest way out was located. But she did all of this while smiling and chatting happily, as if she was not paying attention to anything at all. Her hands had calluses on them. Small hard patches of skin on her palms and fingers. These were the hands of someone who had trained with weapons, who had gripped and struck and blocked. Not the hands of a simple student. She moved quietly. Too quietly. When she walked, her feet made almost no sound on the metal floors. She could appear beside someone without them knowing she was coming. More than once, Dohan had turned around to find her standing right behind him, smiling innocently, as if she had been there the whole time. These were not normal things. These were the habits of a predator. But whenever Dohan tried to ask about her past, Yuna would change the subject. She would ask about his family. She would point at something interesting. She would suddenly remember a question about alien food. She was very good at avoiding topics she did not want to discuss. One evening, Dohan was walking alone through one of the quieter corridors of the station. Most beings were in their rooms at this hour. The lights had dimmed to simulate nighttime. His crystal skin gave off a soft glow in the darkness. Then he heard voices ahead. Rough voices. Angry voices. He stopped and pressed himself against the wall. Carefully, he looked around the corner. There were 4 Krath soldiers standing in a circle. The Krath were large beings with gray skin, tusked faces, and bodies built for war. They wore heavy armor even when they were off duty. The Krath Empire had been growing stronger in recent years. Pushing against the borders of the Galactic Union, their soldiers were known for being cruel and violent. In the center of their circle was a young Chari merchant. The same one who had given Yuna a free snack on her first day. He was trembling, his antennae pressed flat against his head in fear. You think you can refuse to pay protection fees? The largest Krath, whose name was Goran, pushed the Chari hard. This station will belong to the Empire soon. You should learn your place now, insect. The Chari made a weak clicking sound of terror. Please, I have no money. Business is slow. Please. Goran laughed. It was an ugly sound, like rocks grinding together. Then maybe we take payment from your body instead. Dohan felt sick. He wanted to help, but what could he do? The Krath were twice his size and 10 times stronger. If he interfered, they would hurt him too. He was not a fighter. He was just a guide. Then a soft voice spoke from behind the Krath soldiers. Excuse me. Everyone turned. Dohan's heart nearly stopped. Yuna stood in the corridor. She was wearing her sleep clothes, soft pink pants, and a shirt with a cartoon rabbit on it. Her hair was down, falling around her shoulders. Her feet were bare. She looked like she had just wandered out of bed by accident. I think you are scaring my friend, she said. Her voice was still sweet, still soft, still childlike. Can you please stop? Goran stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed again, louder this time. His soldiers joined in. Look at this, Goran said. A tiny human in her sleeping clothes. Go back to bed, little prey animal. This does not concern you. Yuna did not move. She tilted her head slightly to one side, like a curious bird. Prey animal, she repeated slowly. That is what you think I am? Something in her voice had changed. It was still soft, still quiet, but there was something underneath it now. Something cold. Dohan watched as Yuna took a single step forward. Her bare feet made no sound on the floor. And then everything changed. Her posture shifted. It was a small movement, almost impossible to see. Her shoulders dropped slightly. Her chin lowered. Her hands hung loose at her sides. But it was her eyes that changed the most. The warm, friendly light that usually filled them was gone. In its place was something else. Something old and patient and very, very dangerous. Her pupils expanded until her eyes looked almost black. Her gaze locked onto Garan like a targeting system. She did not look angry. She did not look scared. She looked hungry. Garan stopped laughing. The sound died in his throat, like a small animal caught in a trap. His two hearts began to beat faster. Sweat appeared on his gray skin. Every instinct in his warrior body, every lesson learned through millions of years of craft evolution, suddenly started screaming one word at him. Run. He did not understand it. This was a small human girl. She was unarmed. She was in her sleep clothes. She could not possibly be a threat, but his body did not care about logic. His body knew something his mind did not. His body recognized a predator when it saw one. I think, Yuna said softly, you should apologize to the nice Churi. Do you not agree? Her voice was barely above a whisper, but in the silent corridor, it sounded like thunder. Garan took a step backward, then another. His soldiers were already retreating, their earlier confidence completely destroyed. This is not over, Garan said, but his voice shook as he spoke. The Empire will remember this. Then he turned and walked away quickly. His soldiers followed. None of them looked back. The moment they were gone, the coldness left Yuna's eyes. The warmth returned. She smiled at the Chari merchant as if nothing had happened. Are you okay? She asked sweetly. They were very rude. The Churi clicked rapidly in confusion and gratitude. Thank you. Thank you, human. But how did you? What did you? Yuna just shrugged. I asked them nicely to stop. That is all. She turned and saw Dohan standing frozen against the wall. She walked over to him and smiled. Hello, Dohan. Could you not sleep either? Want to get a late snack with me? Dohan opened his mouth to speak. No words came out. He had just watched a small girl in pink pajamas terrify 4 craft warriors without touching any of them, without raising her voice, without doing anything except looking at them. What in the galaxy had Earth sent to this station? Come on, Yuna said, taking his arm gently. I know a Mallory stall that stays open late. They have something that tastes like chocolate, almost. She pulled him down the corridor, chatting happily about snacks and sleep schedules, and Dohan followed. Because he did not know what else to do, but he made a decision that night. He was going to find out the truth about Yuna, no matter what it took. He needed to know what kind of predator was hiding behind that innocent smile. Dohan spent 3 days trying to find information about Yuna. He searched the station's databases. He contacted the Earth Embassy. He even sent messages to human academic institutions. Everything came back the same way. Yuna was a student. She was 17 Earth years old. She was part of a cultural exchange program. Nothing unusual, but her profile was strange. It had too little information. Most exchange students had detailed histories, school records, family information, medical files. Yuna's profile had only the basics: name, age, planet of origin, photo. Nothing else. It was like someone had built her identity from nothing. On the 4th day, Dohan made a decision. He would ask her directly. He found Yuna in her room. She was sitting on her bed, looking at photographs on her phone. When he knocked on the open door, she looked up and smiled. Dohan, come in. I was just looking at pictures from home. Do you want to see my family? He stepped inside and closed the door behind him. His crystal skin was humming with nervous energy. Yuna noticed, and her smile became smaller, more careful. You seem worried, she said. Is something wrong? I saw what you did to the Kras soldiers, Dohan said. His voice was shaking slightly. "I saw you look at them and make them run away without touching them. I have seen how you move, how you watch everything, how you have the hands of a fighter. I have searched for information about you and found nothing. So I need to ask you directly. What are you really? Why are you really here?" For a long moment, Yuna said nothing. She looked at Dohan with those dark eyes. Then she sighed, and it was a heavy, tired sound. "Close the door fully," she said, "and sit down. This will take a while." Dohan sat in the chair across from her bed. His hearts were beating fast. Yuna put down her phone and looked at her hands. "I was not lying about being a student," she said. "I was a student. I graduated 2 years ago, but I did not go to a normal school." She looked up at him. "Do you know what special forces are?" Dohan shook his head. "On Earth, we have soldiers who are trained for the most dangerous missions. They learn to fight, to survive, to move without being seen, to gather information. They are called special forces. Different countries have different names for them." She paused. "I graduated from a program that trains special forces. In my country, we call them the Black Berets." Dohan felt cold. "You are a soldier?" "I am. Something like a soldier." Yuna looked uncomfortable. "When I was young, I was identified as having certain abilities. High observation skills, fast reflexes, good physical fitness. But more than that, I had what my teachers called strong predator instincts." "Predator instincts?" Yuna nodded slowly. "Humans are not like other intelligent species in the galaxy. We evolved on a Deathworld. For millions of years, we were both hunters and hunted. We developed abilities that helped us survive. We can run for days without stopping. We can heal from terrible wounds. We can track prey across long distances. And we can tap into something old, something deep inside our minds." She tapped her temple with one finger. "We call it the quiet place. It is where we keep the part of ourselves that hunted mammoths and fought saber-toothed cats. The part that is pure predator. Most humans never find it. They live their whole lives without knowing it exists. But some of us can reach it. Some of us can use it. What you did to the Krath soldiers," Dohan said slowly. "That was the quiet place." "Yes." Yuna looked down at her hands again. "When I go to the quiet place, I become something else. I become what my ancestors were. Pure hunter. Pure predator. Other beings can sense it. Their instincts tell them they are in danger, even if they do not understand why. It is why the Krath ran. Their bodies knew what I was, even if their minds did not." Dohan was silent for a long moment. Then he asked the question that had been burning in his mind. "Why are you really here? On this station?" Yuna hesitated. Then she reached under her mattress and pulled out a small data device. She handed it to Dohan. "Earth's government received intelligence 3 months ago. The Krath Empire is planning something. They want to take control of Herfy 7 station. It is in a strategic location, perfect for launching attacks into Union space. We believe they are going to try to take the station hostage." Dohan stared at the device. It showed maps, communication intercepts, troop movements. Real military intelligence. "They sent me here to gather information," Yuna continued. "To watch the Krath movements. To prepare for what is coming. They chose me because I look harmless. Because no one would suspect a small girl with a pink bag." "You are a spy," Dohan said. "I prefer the word scout," Yuna replied with a small smile. "Spies steal secrets. Scouts gather information and prepare for battle." Dohan set down the data device. His mind was racing. Everything he thought he knew about Yuna had been wrong. She was not an innocent student. She was a trained predator wearing the mask of a child. But something else was bothering him. "In these 3 weeks," he said slowly, You have made many friends. The Churi merchant, the Mallory traders, Bora the security chief, even me. Was all of that fake? Were you just pretending to be friendly so people would not suspect you? Yuna's face showed genuine hurt. No, that was real. All of it. She moved closer to him, her eyes serious. Dohan, being a predator does not mean I cannot also be kind. Humans are complicated. We have the instincts of hunters and the hearts of caretakers. We can fight and kill when we need to, but we also form bonds. Deep bonds. Bonds that make us willing to die for the people we care about. She reached out and gently touched his crystal arm. I do consider you a friend. A real friend. That is not a lie. Dohan looked at her hand on his arm. Her fingers were small and delicate. But he now knew those fingers could kill. What happens when the Krath attack? He asked. I stopped them. How? You are one person. They will send many soldiers. Yuna smiled. But it was not her usual sweet smile. It was something sharper. Something with teeth. Humans do not fight fair, she said. We never have. We are not stronger than most species. We are not faster. But we are patient. We are clever. We use our environment. We use fear. We do not need to defeat an enemy with strength. We just need to make them afraid. She stood up and walked to her window, looking out at the stars. When I was 12 years old, my teachers took me into the mountains in winter. They left me there with no food, no water, no shelter. Just a knife and my clothes. I had to survive for 2 weeks. Dohan made a sound of shock. That is cruel. That is Earth. Yuna did not turn around. I lost 3 toes to frostbite. I ate insects and tree bark to survive. I built shelters from branches and snow. I tracked and killed a wild pig with my bare hands because I was starving. And at the end of those 2 weeks, I walked out of those mountains stronger than I went in. She turned to face him. The Krath think they are predators. They think their size and their weapons make them powerful. But they have never been truly hungry. They have never been truly desperate. They do not know what a real predator looks like. Her eyes flickered, and for just a moment, Dohan saw the quiet place looking out at him. I do. Dohan swallowed hard. He should have been terrified. He should have run from this room and reported Yuna to station security. She was a foreign soldier operating in secret. She was dangerous in ways he could barely understand. But he did not run, because despite everything, despite the predator hiding behind her eyes, she was also the girl who had waved at him excitedly on her first day. The girl who had taken silly photographs with him. The girl who had saved a Chari merchant and asked for nothing in return. She was both things at once. Hunter and friend. Predator and protector. What do you need me to do? He asked. Yuna's smile returned. The real one. The warm one. I need you to trust me, she said. And when the time comes, I need you to help me save this station. Dohan stood up. His crystal skin had stopped humming. He felt strangely calm. Okay, he said. I trust you. And somewhere deep in his ancient Varani instincts, he knew he had just allied himself with the most dangerous being he would ever meet. He was terrified. And somehow, that felt exactly right. The attack came at station night, when the lights were dim and most beings were asleep. The 50 Krath soldiers moved through the docking bays in perfect silence. They had disabled the external alarms before entering. They wore full combat armor and carried weapons capable of cutting through station walls. Their leader was a tall human male named Taiwan. Taiwan was born on Earth, but had rejected his species long ago. He believed humans should suppress their violent nature, should become peaceful like other species. When the Krath Empire offered him power in exchange for betraying his home, he accepted without hesitation. Now he led Krath soldiers against his own kind. Within 30 minutes, the Krath had taken control of the central hub. They gathered 200 hostages, including Ambassador Tulek and Security Chief Bora. They disabled all communication systems. They locked down every door. Commander Taiwan stood before the frightened crowd and smiled coldly. "This station now belongs to the Krath Empire," he announced. "Cooperate, and you will live. Resist, and you will die. We will hold this position until the Krath fleet arrives. Anyone who tries to escape will be executed." In the crowd, Ambassador Tulek looked around desperately. Where was the human girl? Where was Yuna? He did not see her anywhere above the central hub. In the maintenance tunnels that ran throughout the station, Yuna was moving. She had changed out of her school uniform. Now she wore dark clothing that she had hidden in her room weeks ago. Her hair was tied back tightly. Her pink bag and her stickers and her innocent smile were all gone. In the quiet place, there was no room for such things. Dohan followed behind her, his crystal skin dimmed to hide its glow. He was terrified, but he did not turn back. He had made a promise. 50 soldiers, he whispered. How can we possibly fight 50 soldiers? Yuna did not slow down. We do not fight them, she whispered back. We hunt them. She stopped at a junction in the tunnels and pulled out a small device. It showed the station layout with red dots marking the positions of Krath soldiers. 20 were in the central hub with the hostages. 30 were spread throughout the station in pairs, guarding key locations. Humans invented something called psychological warfare, Yuna said softly. It means attacking the enemy's mind before attacking their body. We make them afraid. We make them doubt. We make them see monsters in every shadow. And when they are broken inside, we finish them. She looked at Dohan. Your job is to control the station systems. You know this station better than anyone. I need you to turn off the lights in sections. Change the temperature. Make doors open and close randomly. Create chaos. And what will you do? Yuna's eyes went dark. I will be the monster in the shadows. The first craft patrol disappeared 12 minutes later. They were guarding a corridor near the power systems. 2 large warriors with heavy weapons and full armor. They heard footsteps behind them and turned around. Nothing was there. They heard footsteps again, ahead of them now. Still nothing. Then the lights went out. When the lights came back on 30 seconds later, both Krath soldiers were gone. Their weapons lay on the floor. There was no blood, no sign of struggle. They had simply vanished. Throughout the station, Dohan watched through security cameras as panic began to spread among the Krath forces. The heating system shut down in certain areas, making the temperature drop to near freezing. The lights flickered randomly. Doors opened when soldiers approached them, then slammed shut behind them, separating them from their partners. And one by one, soldiers began to disappear. They were not killed. Yuna had been clear about that. Dead soldiers are evidence, she had explained. Missing soldiers are mysteries. Mysteries create fear. Instead, she ambushed them from behind. She used techniques she had learned in training. Pressure points that caused unconsciousness. Holds that cut off blood to the brain. She moved so quietly that soldiers never heard her coming. She struck so quickly that they never had time to call for help. Then she dragged their bodies into hidden places and left them tied up in the darkness. But she also left messages on walls, on floors, on the armor of unconscious soldiers. Messages written in the Krath language. You are not alone. We are watching. The darkness has teeth. Commander Taiwan received reports every few minutes. 2 soldiers missing near power systems. 3 soldiers missing near the medical bay. 5 soldiers missing near the docking area. No distress calls. No signs of combat. Just empty corridors and terrifying messages. Find whoever is doing this. He screamed at his remaining troops. It is just one person. They cannot be everywhere. But that was exactly what it felt like. Like there was something everywhere. Like the station itself had become a predator, and they were trapped inside its mouth dot in the central hub. The hostages watched the Krath soldiers grow more and more afraid. These were warriors from a species that prided itself on courage. But now they jumped at every shadow. They pointed their weapons at empty corners. They refused to go anywhere alone. Ambassador Tolek understood then what was happening. The human girl was hunting them, not fighting them. Hunting them, like they were prey. By the time 3 hours had passed, only 15 Krath soldiers remained active. The rest were unconscious and hidden throughout the station. Commander Taiwan had pulled all his remaining forces back to the central hub. They formed a circle around the hostages, weapons pointing outward, eyes scanning every entrance. She will come here eventually, Taiwan said. His voice was no longer confident. We have the hostages. She will have to face us directly. The lights in the central hub went out, complete darkness. The emergency lights should have come on, but they did not. Dohan had disabled them all. In the darkness, the Krath soldiers began to shout. They fired their weapons at nothing. The sound was deafening. Hostages screamed and covered their heads. Then a voice spoke from somewhere in the blackness. A soft voice. A young voice. You know what humans did before we had weapons? The voice said. It seemed to come from everywhere at once. We hunted in the dark. We tracked animals by smell and sound. We waited for hours without moving, without making a sound, until our prey was close enough to touch. A Krath soldier screamed and collapsed. Then another. Then another. Each time, there was no sound of impact. No flash of weapon fire. Just a soft movement of air, and then a body hitting the floor. Your species is afraid of the dark, Yuna's voice continued. Mine learned to love it. The dark is where we became what we are. The dark is where we learned to hunt. More soldiers fell. Taiwan fired his weapon wildly, hitting nothing but walls. Stop! He screamed. Show yourself. Face me like a warrior. The lights came back on. Yuna stood in the center of the room. Around her, every remaining Krath soldier was on the ground. Some were unconscious. Some were awake but unable to move, their pressure points locked in painful paralysis. Only Taiwan was still standing, his weapon pointed at her with shaking hands. Yuna looked at him. She was barely 160 centimeters tall. She was thin and young and unarmed. But every being in that room could feel what she was. The quiet place was fully open now, and the predator inside was looking out through her eyes. I am not a warrior, she said softly. Warriors fight fair. Warriors follow rules. I am something older. Something that was hunting before your ancestors learned to walk upright. Something that your species learned to fear in the caves of your own world. She took one step forward. Just one. Taiwan stumbled backward, nearly falling. You betrayed your own kind, Yuna said. You thought being human was a weakness. You thought our instincts made us animals. But you were wrong. She tilted her head. Being human means being dangerous and gentle at the same time. It means having claws and knowing when not to use them. It means being a predator who chooses to protect instead of kill. Her eyes locked onto his. That is something you will never understand. Taiwan pulled the trigger. Click. Nothing. While the lights were out, Yuna had removed the power cell from his weapon. He had not even noticed. But do not worry, Yuna said, walking toward him slowly. I will not kill you. That is not why I am here. She stopped right in front of him. So close, he could feel her breath on his face. I am here to save these people. And to show you exactly what you gave up when you stopped being human. Her hand moved faster than his eyes could follow. Taiwan collapsed to the ground, unconscious. Yuna stood alone in the center of the room. 200 hostages stared at her in silent shock. Then she smiled. And it was her normal smile. Her sweet, innocent, friendly smile. "Is everyone okay?" she asked cheerfully. "Sorry for the scare. Help is coming soon." Ambassador Tolek stared at her. This small girl. This child with the pink bag and the cartoon stickers. She had just defeated 50 Krath soldiers by herself. Not with strength. Not with weapons, not with fear. And somehow, despite everything he had just witnessed, when she smiled at him, he found himself smiling back. That was the most terrifying thing of all. The battle had lasted 47 minutes. When station security finally regained control of the communication systems, they called for help from the Galactic Union fleet. Ships arrived within hours. Medics rushed through the corridors, treating the injured. Soldiers secured every area of the station. Reporters from dozens of worlds flooded the docking bays, desperate for information about what had happened. The story they found was impossible to believe. 50 Krath soldiers. Full combat armor. Heavy weapons. Military training. Defeated by one human girl and a nervous Varani guide. Yuna sat in the corner of the central hub, wrapped in a blanket that someone had given her. Her hands were shaking now. The adrenaline was fading, and her body was remembering that it was tired and scared and human. Dohan sat beside her. He had found something that tasted almost like hot chocolate from one of the still-open food stalls. He handed her the cup, and she took it with both hands, grateful for the warmth. "How do you feel?" he asked. Yuna took a small sip before answering. "Tired. My hands always shake after. My teacher said it is normal. The body's way of releasing tension." She looked at the crowd of beings around them. Union soldiers were leading the captured Krath away in restraints. Medics were checking the hostages. Ambassador Tolek was speaking urgently with military commanders. Security Chief Bora was directing his people with renewed energy. Everyone was moving, talking, doing something. Only Yuna was still. "Do you regret it?" Dohan asked quietly. "Using the quiet place? Becoming that?" Yuna thought about the question for a long moment. "No," she said finally. "I do not regret it. Those people were going to be hurt. Maybe killed. I could stop it, so I did." She looked down at her shaking hands. "But it is not easy. Every time I go to that place, I have to fight to come back. The predator inside me does not want to be quiet again. It wants to stay awake. It wants to hunt forever." She closed her eyes. Being human means fighting that urge every day. It means having a monster inside you and choosing not to let it control you. Dohan nodded slowly. He was beginning to understand something about humans that the rest of the galaxy had missed. They were not scary because they were predators. They were scary because they were predators who chose to be kind. Ambassador Tolek approached them. His crystal skin was flickering with complex emotions that Dohan could not read. The old diplomat looked at Yuna for a long moment, then bowed deeply. It was a gesture of profound respect among the Varani, usually reserved only for the greatest leaders and heroes. "Young human," he said, "I have lived for 200 years. I have met thousands of beings from hundreds of species. I thought I understood the galaxy." He straightened up and looked at her with all four of his eyes. "I was wrong. I did not understand humans at all." Yuna smiled tiredly. "We are complicated. Yes." Tolek sat down across from her. "You are both terrifying and gentle. Violent and caring. You have the instincts of killers and the hearts of protectors. How do you balance such contradictions?" Yuna wrapped her blanket tighter around her shoulders. She looked very young in that moment. Very small. Very human. We do not always balance them well. she admitted. Humans have done terrible things in our history. Wars, cruelty, destruction. The predator inside us has won many times. She paused. But we keep trying. Every generation, we try to be better than the one before. We teach our children to be kind. We build societies that reward cooperation. We create art and music and stories that celebrate love instead of violence. She looked up at the ambassador. Being from a Deathworld does not make us monsters. It makes us survivors. And survival is not just about killing. It is about knowing when to fight and when to heal, when to hunt and when to protect, when to bare our teeth and when to offer our hands in friendship. Tolek was silent for a long time. Then he spoke slowly. I think the galaxy has much to learn from your species. Not about war. We have enough war. About balance. About holding darkness and light inside the same heart. Yuna's smile grew warmer. Maybe that is why we are good at making friends. Because we understand that everyone has darkness inside them. We do not judge others for their shadows. We just try to help them find their light. She reached out and touched Dohan's crystal arm. Even nervous Varani guides who were afraid of me at first. Dohan made a sound that might have been a laugh. I am still afraid of you, he admitted. But in a different way now. I am afraid of what you had to become to save us. I am afraid of the weight you carry inside. Yuna nodded. That is a good fear. It means you understand. The next few days passed in a blur of activity. The Galactic Union launched an investigation into the Krath attack. Diplomats argued about responses and consequences. Reporters interviewed everyone who had been in the central hub. The story of the human girl who defeated 50 soldiers spread across the galaxy. Yuna refused most of the interviews. She was tired of being looked at like a weapon. She wanted to be seen as a person again. On her last day at the station, she stood at the docking bay with her pink bag on her shoulders. The stickers had been replaced with new ones that Dohan had found for her. The bag looked as innocent and silly as ever. A small crowd had gathered to say goodbye. The cherry merchant she had saved. The Mallory traders who had given her snacks. Security Chief Bora, who nodded at her with something like respect in his reptilian eyes. Ambassador Tolek stood at the front of the crowd. In his crystal hands, he held a small pendant made of pure Varani crystal. It glowed with soft inner light. This is a symbol of friendship among my people, he said, placing it around Yuna's neck. It represents a bond that cannot be broken. You have earned it, young human. More than anyone I have ever known. Yuna touched the pendant gently. Her eyes were bright with tears that she refused to let fall. Thank you, she said softly. I will treasure it always. Finally, she turned to Dohan, her guide, her ally, her friend. Will you visit Earth someday? She asked. I could show you the mountains where I trained. They are very beautiful in spring. Dohan made the Varani equivalent of a smile. I would like that. Although I am not sure I could survive your training exercises. Yuna laughed. A real laugh, warm and bright and human. You survived me. You can survive anything. She hugged him. It was a very human gesture, and Dohan was not sure how to respond. But after a moment, he wrapped his crystalline arms around her and held on tight. Thank you for trusting me, Yuna whispered. Thank you for being worth trusting, Dohan replied. They separated. Yuna wiped her eyes quickly, trying to hide her tears. Then she waved at the crowd one more time, turned, and walked onto her ship Dot as the vessel pulled away from the station. Dohan watched it grow smaller and smaller against the stars. Beside him, Ambassador Tolek stood in thoughtful silence. She will do great things, Tolek said finally. That one will change the galaxy. I know, Dohan replied. The question is whether the galaxy is ready for her. Tolek made a sound of agreement. Ready or not, humans are here. And I think the universe will never be quite the same. Far away, already light years distant and moving faster every second, Una sat in her cabin and looked at the photographs on her phone. Pictures of aliens. Pictures of new friends. Pictures of herself smiling in front of strange and wonderful places. She pulled out the crystal pendant and held it up to the light. It sparkled like a tiny star in her palm. Her commanding officers would want a report. They would want tactical analysis and threat assessments and strategic recommendations. They would look at her like a tool, a weapon to be pointed at the next problem. But that was not all she was. She was also the girl who collected stickers. The girl who loved cute snacks and silly photographs. The girl who made friends with merchants and guides and grumpy security chiefs. She was both things at once. That was what it meant to be human. Una smiled and tucked the pendant safely under her shirt, close to her heart. Then she opened her phone and started writing a message to Dohan. Made it to the ship safely. Missing you already. Send me pictures of any new cute foods you find. Also, tell the Churi merchant I said hi. She added 3 heart emojis and pressed send. The predator inside her slept peacefully. The human outside her was going home, and somewhere in the galaxy, beings of 1,000 different species were telling stories about a small girl with a pink bag who had shown them what humanity really meant. Not monsters, not angels, just people. Wonderfully, terrifyingly, beautifully human.